We've got 5 kind of bigger boy keys today, under $600, that I think would be amazing to own in the PC and are a great investment. Stay tuned.
Comically correct comics.
Happy New Year, speculators. Welcome back to Comically Correct Comics. I'm your host, Comic Guy Bry, and what better way to put a stamp on a dismal and horrid 2020 than starting off 2021 with a potential $600 payment from good old Uncle Sam. I think everyone knows what I'm talking about. I'm talking about round 2 of the stimulus package. Now, first off, I want to say that this is not a political video, okay? This is a video about comic books, but there are a couple points I want to discuss first, and that is, let's be honest, not everyone receiving the $600 stimulus package is in need of financial assistance. My grandmother, for example, whose income hasn't changed in the last 20 years and won't change ever, got a stimulus check. She in absolutely no way needed a stimulus check. She's in no way financially impacted by the pandemic, and so for her, it's just an extra $600. Others, like myself and many others out there, may have jobs in a market that was unaffected by the pandemic and have a good amount of financial and job security in that position. To those people, the $600 was not necessary if they were in no way affected by the pandemic. Now, some people that really need that stimulus check won't get it. Other people that really need it will get the $600 and it won't even be close to enough to meeting their needs. This video is not for those people. I believe that if you are in dire times financially, in general, especially because of the pandemic, I think you have a moral responsibility to put that money away and save it in case something unforeseen happens. Also, if you have any form of uncertainty about your current job or what the future holds for your career or your job because of the pandemic, you may want to put this money aside. But if you're in a financially stable place, if you have job security, if you are in no way in danger of losing your job, you might have $600 to invest. And I would recommend that you invest in comics. Now, some people might say that comics are not an investment. And I would say to those people that you are simply misinformed. It absolutely is an investment, and it can be a very, very good investment. When the first round of stimulus checks came out in March of 2020, I invested all $1,200 in 2 comic books. I just sold those 2 comic books for $2,400, 100% ROI. 100% ROI in 1 year is a fantastic investment in anyone's eyes. So comic books can be a very wise investment, and they can be very fruitful. Now, as with any investment, there is a certain level of risk. Literally, every investment has risk. The stock market, gold, silver, bonds, everything has an element of risk. The same goes for comic books. Now, I would say that comic books, the level of risk with comic books are about the same to the level of risk in the stock market. It's not going to go away overnight. The stock market isn't going to crumble in one night. Now, some people might say, and the same for comic books. The value isn't going to completely disappear overnight. Now, some people might say, yes, the stock market absolutely could crumble and disappear overnight, and they would be correct. My point is that if the stock market crumbles and disappears overnight, we are talking about a completely different scale of problem. We're talking about global economy crash. We're talking zombie apocalypse level calamity. And if that's the case, your savings account and your savings and your investments are the least of your worries. We're going to be worried about a lot bigger problems than that. So I choose to hedge my investments with the belief in our current financial system and the belief that tomorrow it'll still be standing, even though it may be a complete house of cards. I do believe that our economy is a house of cards that might come crumbling down. But I'm not just going to not make investments. I'm not going to live under a rock. If that were the case, all I would do is invest in canned food and guns. And while I might be invested in some of those things, canned food and guns just don't quite pop off the racks and the walls of my man cave like a beautifully encapsulated CGC comic. So, for that reason, I invest in comics. And I have a really high level of comfortability with risk. And so I invest in a lot of high risk comic books because high risk has a higher potential for reward. That's with any investment. Now, a couple little comparisons I'd like to make with investing comic books and the stock market. You've got your blue chip keys, you've got your golden age keys. Those are like the mutual funds, like the bonds of the stock market. They're highly stable. Okay, if you buy a copy of Amazing Fantasy number 15, that book is not going to see huge dips. Okay, it's going to be a relatively straight line and it's going to go up. I mean, you might have a year where it levels off or dips a little bit, but overall, the line goes up. And that is a blue chip key. That is a major grail. Silver Age, Golden Age grails, they have a lower potential ROI in general. So every once in a while, you'll get one of those major keys that doubles in price or goes up a lot. There are exceptions to it. I'm talking about general terms here. In general, Silver and Golden Age mega keys slowly rise, okay, in general. Then you have your penny stocks, which are spec books, modern books usually, that either have just come out or introduce new characters or have a twist, that they are highly likely to either double, triple, or just completely fall flat. Just like it is with penny stocks. You know, penny stocks have this huge potential ROI, and a lot of people lose their ass in penny stocks. So, what is the best investment strategy for you depends upon your level of comfortability with risk. And my overall recommendation, regardless of what your comfortability is with risk, is to diversify your portfolio. Okay, have a little bit of everything. Have some of those more steady, slam dunk for sure investment comics, and have some spec books in there too, so that you can capitalize on any big gains. I've picked a little bit of everything across the board for a reason, because I wanted this video to appeal to everyone. But coming in at number one, my number one recommendation for anything, for any investment, for spec, for everything right now is Ultimate Fallout 4, the second print. Okay, this is the first appearance of Miles Morales, and the second print is my pick. I'm about to do a whole nother video with another YouTuber, so stay tuned for that, where I will jump into more detail about this book. So for this video, suffice it to say, if you don't have a Miles Morales book, I think now is the perfect time to pick one up. You can get a second print, the cover A, for around $275, $250 to $275, and you can get the cover B, the Sarah Pacelli variant, for anywhere between $150 and $200. I wouldn't pay more than $200 for the Pacelli variant right now. And this video is being filmed on January 2nd, 2021. I just got a copy of the Pacelli variant for $175 on eBay as a best offer, buy it now. And a couple months ago, I got one for $150 at a no limit auction. So if you're patient, you can get it for around $150, $175. But I believe it's worth every penny of $200. for the Pacelli, and every penny of $250 for the regular cover, up to $275 for the regular cover. Now, I have multiple copies of this because I believe that this book is going to double in price as soon as we hear any kind of news about Miles Morales getting his day and getting on screen. And I picked the second print because it's more within reach, and I think it has a greater potential ROI than the first print. Now, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say, let's check back in January 2nd, 2022, 1 year from today, and I will bet money that this book has doubled in value at least. Going out on a limb there, I'm going to mark my calendar and bring this video back up, and I hope you hold me accountable to that too. We'll see. It's a spec. I don't know what's actually going to happen. So if you wanted to make an investment and you had $600 to spend, I would probably pick up 3 copies of the Pacelli variant or 2 copies of the cover A second print. Put it all in that. That's honestly what I would do if I didn't have a bunch of books already. I would just go hard on Miles Morales. But if you wanted to diversify or he wasn't quite your cup of tea, coming in at number 2, we have Silver Surfer number 1. And this is that Silver Age key that I was talking about. Now, you're probably only going to find him, you would be lucky to find this in the very respectable grade of a CGC 5.0 for $600. You got to take into account fees. If you go to an auction house like Comic Connect or Comic Link, there's going to be a buyer's fee, there's going to be taxes, there's going to be shipping. So that price that you pay is actually going to be quite a bit more once you get out the door. So for high-end books like this, I would always recommend going to Instagram or checking with, some of your friends or the comic community and to just put it out there that you're looking for a certain book so you could save on fees and things. Now, Silver Surfer number 1 is the origin of Silver Surfer and the origin of the Watchers. Now, the original origin story of the Watchers was in Tales of Suspense number 53. If you want to have a trippy experience, go watch the Bob Lazar Netflix special, okay, about Area 51, and then read Tales of Suspense number 53, the original origin of the Watchers. Just take my word for it. It's a trip, okay? I just accidentally did those 2 things one day after the other. I watched the Bob Lazar documentary, and the next day I read the original Tales of Suspense 53 for no reason. It just happened to read it and blew my mind. I'm not going to say any more about that. Hit me up, DM me if you did the same thing or if you know what I'm talking about. It's crazy. So in Silver Surfer number 1, it's actually a retelling of the origin of the Watchers. The original origin of the Watchers is Tales of Suspense number 53. So the reason that this book made it onto this list and not the first appearance of Silver Surfer, which he appears in Fantastic Four number 48, is because that book is already out of reach and you can't find it in any grade for $600, I don't think. And just be really careful if you're going to buy a raw copy of Silver Surfer number 1, because of the square bound book, it's really common to have restoration. And if you get a restored copy and you have it graded, your investment is going to take a huge hit. Color touch and glue on the spine is really common in this book because it's a square bound book which uses glue, and it easily fell apart and people would just put a little glue on it. Well, guess what? That gets a restored grade from CGC, and you do not want a restored purple label. Also, color touch is really common, and if you're buying a raw book and it's a Silver Age book like this, and you're looking for color touch, sometimes the people don't even know it has color touch on it. And the number 1 way that you can find out is to have them open the front cover and look along the spine in the front cover and see if you see any color coming through there. Sometimes you can't see color touch from the cover, but if you open the front cover and look along the spine and the front page there, that's where you can see the color touch that was made. Number 3 on the list, we have Strange Academy number 1, and in particular, the 1 in 25 Humberto Ramos cover. Now, this book has seen lots of sales over 300, around 375, 380 range, but I wouldn't pay any more than 300. I think you can find a copy if you're patient for 300 or less. And this book has so many first appearances, has so much potential. I think that it, just like the Miles Morales book, is a slam dunk return on investment in this book. And the reason I didn't put the 1 in 50 on here, the Opena variant, is because that book's already well over $600, consistently selling for $700-800 out the gate. The 1 in 50 CGC 98 was selling for $700-800, which was crazy. But it shows the strength of the series. It shows the strength of this book and the faith that people have in this story. I think it's just destined for the screen, and I think it's a slam dunk ROI. Strange Academy #1, the 1 in 25, around $300. Now, number 4 on the list, this wouldn't be a top 5 list without some turtles. We have Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, #2, in particular, the second and third prints. Now, the reason this made it onto the list is because the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are so incredibly hot right now, and it seems as if the only thing driving these prices in the Turtles is nostalgia. The people that grew up with the Turtles in the 80s are finally of an age where they have careers, steady income, and money to invest. And so it makes perfect sense that they would turn to those characters that they grew up with and loved, and they now finally have some money to do so. So nostalgia alone seems to be driving the prices of these books. The only other possible thing is the new series, The Last Ronin, which has sparked a whole slew of new fans of the series because it's that good. So those two things alone are driving insane prices for these books. And I do fully expect that that the Turtles will get some on-screen love as well, some kind of remake, some kind of new series that will drive prices even further. So I think there is still room for these books. And in particular, issue #2, which is the first appearance of April O'Neil. I would have put issue 1 on this list, but pretty much everything is just out of reach for the $600 range. So for this price range, you can find a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles #2, the second print, which is the same cover as the first print, in a CGC 9.6 for around $450. Okay, the 9.8, we're past the $600 mark. We're at like $1,000-1,200 for a 9.8 of the second print. And the third print, you can actually get a CGC 9.8 for around $550. Now, the only problem is that they don't come up that often, and so they're hard to find. But there was a recent sale of a #2 third print CGC 9.8 for $550. And I think that's a great price. I think it has room to grow. And that third print is the first cover appearance of April O'Neil. And that would be my choice of the batch is the third print in a 9.8. I just would prefer to own a 9.8. It's like that top investment grade, and it's just cooler to have in the PC. All right, #5 on the list, we have X-Men #120. Now, this is the first cameo appearance of Alpha Flight, and Alpha Flight is rumored to appear in the MCU, and if they do, I expect that this book will skyrocket. Right now, it's already high. You can find a CGC 9.4 for around $350, and then when you go to the 9.6, all of a sudden it jumps to like $700. So you would be really lucky to get a 9.6 for $600. So I think it would be a great buy if you can find one for $600. But then you get to the 9.8, and there was a recent sale of $3,000. And I thought like maybe that was market manipulation or something. Like, how could that price jump be that big from a 9.6 to a 9.8? I mean, from a 9.4 to a 9.8, a 9.4 for $350 and then a 9.8 for $3,000. It's a big jump. It's not unforeseen. It's actually kind of common if the 9.8s are really rare. And so I looked it up on the census, and indeed it is hard to get this issue, X-Men #120, in a 9.8. There's only 81 9.8s on the census, as compared to X-Men 121, the next issue, which has over 300 issues in a 9.8. So the scarcity, supply and demand, market factors at play, it is definitely more rare in a 9.8, and the prices reflect that. X-Men #121 is actually the first full appearance of Alpha Flight. And the prices are lower. I think it has to do with scarcity. And usually, you know, the cameo appearance is not as highly priced as the first appearance. There's a couple different factors that can play into that. Number one, the cover. The cover, how cool the cover is, the eye appeal of the cover, that is a big consideration. And also the scarcity. That's a huge factor in the value of a book, is supply and demand. It's an interesting thing that you don't see play out all that often, and it doesn't really matter. You just look at FMV, look at recent values, and you find out what you're willing to pay for the book. The fair market value of 120 in a 9.4 is about 350, and a 9.6 is about 600, 700. 9.8 apparently is up around $3,000. I think that's crazy high, but the market dictates. So that's it, you guys. Thank you so much for tuning into this video. Please be responsible with that stimulus money and make wise choices, make wise investments with your money. And thank you so much for stopping by. If you're not already subscribed, if you would please consider doing so. It is extremely helpful to me, to the channel. It helps me provide better content. And if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like on your way out. And I cannot wait to chop it up with you in the comments. Hit me up over on Instagram. Send me a DM if you have any questions about anything at all, CGC stuff. I am here for you guys, for the community, and I'd love to connect with all of you. So hit me up over on Instagram, and thank you for stopping by. We'll see you in the next video. Bye.